right? Maybe we'll start tagging people in. What's your password? Right there. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the It's a Wrap with Reggie and Sam podcast. I'm your co-host, and this is my brother from another mother, Mr. Reginald Rutledge. Reginald, how's it going?
Fantastic, Brother Sam. How are you today, sir?
I am excited as well, but on two parts. One, I'm glad to see you because I hadn't seen you all week. I know you had some surgery going on with your eye, and hope all is well with that.
And I want to say, everyone looks so much better.
Even the ugly people.
It's a blessing. Thank you, sir.
Even the blessing. But we are, one other reason why I'm super excited is to have my friend and co-worker in the building with us today. It's always exciting to have an in-studio guest. This is a guy that I've been working with for a little while. We've got a very good friendship, and we've shared some stuff. And one of these guys, I'm so proud of him. He's one of these people that are real about what he does, and he doesn't take a day off from doing what it is that he does. And I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit of him. But he's my friend, and I'm glad, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Chris, I do consider you a really good friend. My friend, Mr. Chris Appleton. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sam. Reggie, good to be here. Thank you both for allowing me to do this. Super grateful. It's an amazing thing when you build friendships, and I consider you both good friends. So thanks for letting me be here.
Yes, sir. Same.
Absolutely. I mean, and ours is one thing I like about it. Ours is an organic friendship. You see what I'm saying? It didn't come with any. Well, I'm gonna be friends with him because he's got this. I'm gonna be friends with him because it grew because we just got to know one another, and we were able to share stuff that that I couldn't share with that probably you can share with people that you've known all your life, but because of the genuosity, I guess we don't know if that's a word or not, but our friendship, but that's why I continue to grow, and it's one that I value and treasure, and so I just felt like when I asked you to do this. And your enthusiasm was another thing that got me excited about it too, because a lot of times I ask somebody to come on, who could really add something to the conversation that me and Reggie, like I said, me and Reggie got two different views, but it's not like having the view from somebody who's actually been in the trenches, which is the difference between empathy and sympathy. It's what people don't understand. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's actually been through it. And like I said, I'm a religious guy, and I tell people that I'm very more spiritual than I am religious. But when I see how you are doing what you're doing, and a couple of other people, and I'm not going to mention the name because I didn't tell them that I would, because I feel like people respect their privacy. But it lets me know that the strength of my God, the God that I serve, and I really don't know this because I've never been addicted to anything. But I can say my experience is that I dated someone that was addicted to a drug, and I'm not going to be specific in that, and to see what they were going through. And to see what they wanted to do as opposed to what they could do in that daily struggle, I got a new insight for it. So when I meet someone like Chris, who's actually doing it, and I understand, I got nothing but respect and love for you for what it is that you're doing. And that was one of the things we wanted to talk about today. What gives you the strength and the drive to do what you do every day? Because one of the things. And like I said, when I was dating the person that was in there, and we would go to meetings and we would go to counseling and stuff like that. And one moniker that the counselor would always say, you have to accept the fact that you're going to be a recovering addict for the rest of your life. And that's no small task to embrace that and do what you do every day, Chris. Like I said, my hat's off to you. So could you speak to something like that?
Yeah, It opened my eyes, not only like the disease of addiction and just the nature and the things that come along with it, but entering in recovery opened my world up, and it really did. It opened it up to new possibilities, and to work a program of recovery and to move forward in life. It's an everyday battle. It's an everyday struggle. I'm fortunate that I have a really good network of people who love and care for me and genuinely want the best for me. But I know a lot of people who struggle coming in and out, and it's one of those things. It's life on life's terms. It hits you when you're down, and I'm super grateful to be able to be in the position I am to make my future a little bit better. And to try to make amends for the things that I did in the past. And I think that's probably one of the cornerstones of my program, is being able to see the person that I used to be and want to be the person that I know I can grow into.
Wow, that's powerful, because I don't know what you could call this, but I got this thing that I always like to tell people when I'm talking to them and I'm counseling them. I know I'm not a life coach or anything like that, but I do tend to have a conversation with people about things that are going on in their lives, and I try to give them this analogy. I tell them, we are born two people, the person that we are and the person that we could be. And one day those two people will meet, and it will make for an exceptional human being, because of the possibilities that the person that you could be are endless. And they're not limited to the person that you are. And that's something that I always tell people when I talk to them about, they're struggling with this or they want to do better, because we all need that positive energy, that positive boost, that positive energy coming from somebody else. And again, it matters when it comes from somebody that somebody who genuinely cares. And I don't know, being a counselor, sometimes maybe you can do it so long and you can become somewhat insensitive or jaded. I guess that's the word I want to use. You become jaded, so to speak, because everybody starts to look alike, and I think it's still. I think you have to still touch somebody. You have to meet somebody where they live with their situation, and I think that's one of the things that goes with about helping them. One of the things that I like about Chris is that he's proud to tell you about his struggle, and he should be proud of it, because the one thing I do notice about you, Chris, is you got a sense of responsibility about things around you. I mean, like your job, how you do your job, your finances, how you I set the goal, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and you do that, and you stay on that task, and you don't let anything deter you. And I know every day's not roses for you, but you would never know it by the way that you carry yourself. And again, I look at the strength that it takes to do that. And again, brother, I admire you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I wouldn't be the person I am today without the struggles, without the hardships, without the people around me that I love and I care for. Those things, to live life on life's terms, man, it can get hard, and you got to build that grit. You got to build that resilience. Otherwise, life's going to smack you in the mouth. And, if you don't have tools to deal with life, and that's the biggest thing I never had growing up.
Yeah.
And coming into recovery was like, I never had the tools to deal with life. And I think that, now, like, gaining some, like, my life is immensely better than what it used to be. It's nowhere near where I want it, but I have the opportunity to grow and to move into those opportunities, like into those places that I want to be. And for the longest time, not having those tools, it's purely out of self-will, and it's not God's will and the greater good of the people around me. And people struggle with that.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was about how important is it to believe in a higher power in your journey? Because myself, Chris, I don't like to call it a struggle. I like to call it a journey. Yeah. For some reason, because I don't see you struggling, I see you striving, which leads me to say journey instead of struggle. Sort of like with my son Xavier with the autism, I like to call it a journey, which is the other podcast. Yes, I'm shamelessly plugging myself, my other podcast. But anyway, that's what I call it a journey, is what you say. And he's been on that journey for like 28 years, but because to call it a struggle will put a different perspective on it for someone who's looking. You see what I'm saying? Because nobody wants to struggle.
Right.
And that's why I say journey, the journey that you're on. How important is it to believe in a higher power? Because in Xavier's case, it's extremely important that I do believe in a higher power and believe deeply in a higher power. How important is that in your journey?
It's one of those things that, like, higher power.
Go to your Facebook page.
I had no idea what one was when I got clean, and my philosophy on organized religion was they were all wrong, but they were all right in the same sense.
Yeah.
Now higher power, it to me it changes. It changes on a daily basis. It could be this podcast. It could be, the people around me, the meetings that I go to, my sponsor, my friends, anything that is really loving and caring and wants the best for me.
Yeah.
And to set aside my pride and ego and allow myself to be helped, whether it's, financially, whether it's counseling, whether it's just needing a shoulder to cry on sometimes.
Yeah.
Higher power, without it, I wouldn't be here. Simple as that. I would not be sitting in this chair with you today.
Wow. And see, and that's the thing. Hey, Chris, how's it going, man? Chris Riley, appreciate you watching. Elliot, I see you too. I can't see somebody else, but again, call somebody and tap them in because this already I can tell that this is going to be good. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I do know some people that are still nowhere near you are on your journey, but they've been on your journey longer than you have. You see what I'm saying? And I wanted to, and they may not see this podcast, but somebody watching may tell them and show it to them or something like that, because I know something good is going to come out of this. I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to touch somebody with some of the stuff that we're going to talk about here. We're going to open some eyes, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, and because the resources that you talked about, a lot of people don't have them. And resources, and sometimes it's due to something that they've done, because it's hard, as you just said, about your pride and your things like this. It's a lot of, as we like to say in the hood, them closet hitters, them people who was in the closet, they was on drugs, and you didn't know it until it finally started to show. But they don't have the wherewithal to swallow their pride and admit that I'm an addict. They don't have the wherewithal to say, I need help, because a lot of people say I can beat this on my own. And don't get me wrong, I know a couple of people. Again, I'm not going to disclose their name. That they never went to rehab. They never went to a drug treatment center. They just quit. But it is so fragile to them going back to that. And I think, and I didn't tell them this, but this is just my thought. But them going back to that is such a thin line, because you didn't work a program, because you didn't get into a support group, and all of them have said almost verbatim, all it would take is one night with the people that I used to hang out with, and I would be back on drugs again. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
You still, and I think because if you don't work a program, if you don't get into give a support system or something like that, that's why that line will be so thin. You don't build. You see what I'm saying? You don't build toward what it is that you want to be, because you're so entrenched in what you are, and you don't see yourself out of that. But you say, well, I stopped cold turkey, but you got to live your life a certain way, and that's one thing I admire about you, because you live your life in a freedom. You're not afraid of something that's going to turn you back to drugs, because I think your will and your resolve keeps you from that. Am I wrong about that when I say that?
No, I mean, it's completely due to vigilance and continued effort. I know for a fact that if I stop doing the things that got me clean, I'm headed right back to that trap house, or headed right back to that same place that got me where I was, 5-6 years ago before I got clean.
Wow.
So what do you think about the people who say, well, man, I stopped cold turkey, but do you feel a support system needs to be there? Depending on the person, I'm not,
I truly believe that a support system of whether it's friends, coworkers, family, it's got to be there. You can't just quit cold turkey. And I know some people who have, and they dibble dabble in this or that.
Okay. Gotcha.
And they may not be full blown addiction where they're living on the streets, but the life they're leading is not a spiritual one about growth and progress.
That's key. That is key. And I think they're living in somewhat of a denial, and I think it gets back to sort of what you said. They don't want nobody to know that they got to work a program. They don't want anybody to know that they need a support system in hand, and the pride keeps them from doing that. But again, It keeps you on the edge. You can really not consider yourself, headed in a positive direction. And again, this is all speculative on my part because I've never been addicted to anything. Okay, except Raisin Bran. Raisin Bran cereal. I was addicted to Raisin Bran cereal.
They got Kyle.
There you
Kyle
go.
checking in.
There you go. What's going on, Kyle? Good, man. Appreciate you watching. But I was addicted to Raisin Bran cereal. But anyway, but what I said that to say, the things that are put in place to help you, use them. I'm just saying that there, you're not reinventing the wheel. And it was so like when me and Reggie were talking about mental health in our earlier podcast not a couple years ago, about a year ago, when we said if there's a pill that keeps you level and keeps you functioning as a good, don't be ashamed to take it. And because we'll say in crazy pills, that's what you say. Give me my crazy pill, but so you put that stigma on there, and you be like, I don't want nobody to know I'm taking crazy pills. You say, oh, I'm not gonna take them because these are crazy people. That type of thing. But again, I just think it's sometimes that people are in denial. And again, reference back to, like I said, I dated someone that was addicted to drugs, and it's almost like that. This is where the similarities with autism and that addiction come up. They can't help themselves.
Okay.
As bad as they want to, they can't help themselves. And when you spoke earlier, Chris, I meant to hit on that. When you call it in society, for the most part, don't look at it as a disease. They look at it as a choice. You made a choice. You see what I'm saying? And that kind of bothers me. And I wonder, is it because I was in that relationship for that long? Because I really and truly wanted the person to get help, and I was doing everything that I could to it. But at some point, as one of the counselors told me, said, it's got to come from her. She has got to hit, and rock bottom. That's another term that you'll hear a lot about, rock bottom. And rock bottom is not the same place for everybody.
Okay.
It's not. And because we on the outside looking in, that would be enough for me. Yeah, for you it will, but you're not that person. So, and that's another thing too, that people always talk about. When they get tired, they'll hit rock bottom. And again, one thing that I learned, in that relationship, which was 20 years ago, Jesus God, but anyway, rock bottom.
Not mean to cut you off.
No.
What was your, not necessarily rock bottom, but
At what point?
Did you say, hey, look, I'm good. That's it for me, or
I got to do something.
Right.
So I've had a couple different bottoms.
Okay.
First one was like dropping out of college for drug use. Another one, I got in some legal trouble, to the point where I was looking at a lot of time, and for many of us, that's where it takes us to prison or jail or anything. And I got the we call it the good old nudge from the judge.
Okay. There you go.
No, before I can't let you skate past that. What is the nudge from the judge? That ain't something I ever heard before.
So it's a term we use. The nudge from the judge is like when the judicial system steps in, based on like some of the crimes and stuff you've done, and it's like, hey man, you need to get clean. You need to either go to this rehab, you need to do this accountability court, you need to do something. The way you're living it's just going to lead you down the road. Okay. So that was initially like the nudge from the judge in like 2014 kind of woke me up, but it didn't really like wake me up to the sense that this disease is really insidious. And I did about 18 months of treatment in IOP, and my life wasn't great by any means, but it had gotten better, and I relapsed, and it took a month and a half. That's it, a month and a half to burn my life back down to square one.
Wow. And
I had nowhere to turn. I had nowhere to go, and at that point it was like, all right, you need to go to a 12-step fellowship, and that's where I went. And those are the people that invited me with open arms and said, we can help you if you help yourself.
Dude, and in that 12-step program, is the strength of it is the fact that they don't judge, or but because I hear it's a great program if you put the work in it. It's like anything else, you're gonna get out of it what you put in it. So what do you think the strength of the 12-step program is? Because I don't.
So I truly believe that like the strength of it is this shared pain, right? We've all been through it. We've all like gone through the trenches and came out, and we're on the other side. And the acceptance that we are addicts. Like if we put one in, one's never enough, and 1,000's always too much. Like it's those things that that shared pain and that shared like empathy to move forward in life and get better.
And that's the thing that I always talk about people, the difference between empathy and sympathy. Because some people think, you're looking, so I feel sorry for that person. Let me see if I can help them. But a person who has the empathy, they've actually been through it, which speaks to what you said about those shared experiences. Because I don't care who you are. If you can identify with somebody who's been through it, it makes it a little bit easier for you to go through. Not that it won't still be tough, because I still think it's incredible what you do. Your journey every day is incredible to me. And like I say, you're one of the people that I pray for every morning. That you continue on doing it, because, like, believe it or not, I don't have to tell you this, but somebody is watching you. You see what I'm saying? And they're saying, I'm looking up to that guy, because you're real transparent with your story. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt in my mind, we got people that are walking around every day, even on our jobs, that are suffering. Well, I don't want to say suffering, but they're going through some stuff, because it's so easy now. I mean, pills are the thing now that you will get on, and it's so easy to do them, because if you go in for, say, outpatient surgery, and they give you these pain pills, next thing you know, you're hooked on them. You see what I'm saying? And they become so much part of your life. But then, how did this happen? And you don't want to admit that happens. But they can draw strength from your story, which is another reason why I wanted for you to come on the podcast, because there's somebody out there that's struggling. That, like I said, they may or may not see this podcast, or somebody will tell them, and maybe somebody will share it with them, and then they can draw some strength to it. Because one thing I do admire about you is the intelligence in which you handle your situation. It's sort of like a no nonsense. And like I say, when I see a young man such as yourself, when you set a goal and then you meet that goal, and it makes me feel good when you share when you succeeded in that goal, which because like I said, you matter to me, and when you share those with me, that just lets you know that's more about the realness in you, the realness about the person that you are. There's a couple other people that are the same way, but again, like I said, I didn't talk to them about what I was going to talk about in the podcast. I told them what it's going to be about, but if I use somebody's name, I'd like to say, well, I may mention your name on the podcast. Would that be okay? But since I didn't, I won't. And like I said, I know some people, and it's sad to say, but they've been on that road on this journey for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. I truly believe that, like, not only do I want to share like my struggles with the people around me and the people that are, and this is a testament to the program that I'm in. I don't just share the struggles, because I get tools and I get experience, strength, and hope from other people, but I also share the success, because the success of it can also take me back.
That is very important part of it, because if we could take it back to the church kind of a little bit, because one of the things that I was listening to somebody, they were having a live feed, and they were talking about why the church is where it is now, why it's not doing more in the communities like when we were growing up. And like I said, one of the fundamental flaws that the church has today, I mean, I don't, whatever church you want to call it, but I'm just saying church in general, which all of them that I see, is that they don't understand that it's the sinner that has the soul, not the sin. And they concentrate so much on what you're doing wrong as opposed to trying to help you get to where you need to be doing right, that they forget about that. And so they'll look at knowledge, and they'll look at you and say, well, that's a drug addict. Well, that's an alcoholic. And that's what they'll identify you with. But you shouldn't do that. You said there's a soul that's had a problem with alcohol. There's a soul that has a problem with drugs. But the church doesn't look at you that way. I mean, you can even go into the homosexuality part of it. They don't see the fact that that's a soul that has a problem with homosexuality. They can't separate the two. They concentrate so much on the fact that that person is doing that they lose the person. And I think you hit on it earlier, Chris, when you talked about the love. Loving people will always be an important ingredient when it comes to recovery, or when it comes to getting over anything, grief, recovery, or anything. I think that should always be at the forefront of what it is that you do for that person. Is love them and get them to understand that you love them. That's in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I think we lose spotlight in the fact that we're all human beings. At the end of the day, we're all human. We have assets, we have defects, we have liabilities, but at the same time, we're all humans. We make mistakes. Sometimes it takes years for us to learn from mistakes and to move forward. And sometimes it takes one second of like, all right, I'm not doing the right thing. Can I get some help? And at the end of the day, we're all trying to like live this life and live in this world. And it would be very like selfish to think that I could live in this world without other people. When I need people in my life, good and bad, good examples and bad examples of what to do and what not to do. And we're all on this road, in this journey together, and we're intermingled. It's one of those things that, at the end of the day, we're all human. And I think we lose sight of that in today's society, that, on a deep level, like we all desire connection and love, and it's hard to sit there and say like, hey, I don't need you, when we do. We need each other.
But again, I think that still comes down to a person's pride, and then everybody's got a pride. Everybody's got pride. My granddad had to say it was man ain't proud, he ain't worth knowing. But But what's going on, Pete? Good to see you, man. Hello, Miss Louise. Thank you for watching. Call somebody and tell them in. But what I say about that is that the shame, the people just see so much shame in asking for help. They see so much shame in the fact that I am addicted to a drug, that I do need help. They see the shame in that. And because they see the shame in it, they can't see past that. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing about when you're going through something, be it a problem, be it drugs or whatever, and it's easier said than done. I tell people this all the time. You got to see yourself past where you are if you want to get better. You got to see yourself past where you are if you think it's going to be something if it's something that this is not what you want. You got to see yourself past where you are then, and see yourself doing what you're supposed to do, and doing what you want to do. And again, I think that's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, because to take it back, when Xavier got the diagnosis with autism, I had to say, okay, let's go. So I delved in, and I just tried to find any and everything. If it had autism on it, I wanted to see it. If it had autism, I wanted to read it, because I knew then that I had to. The quality of life my son was in me and his mom's hands.
Okay.
It was in our hands, and we could not just sit back and just pull up in the corner and say, "Woe is me! Why did this happen to me?" Because that's wasting time. For me, that was wasting time. And I didn't know how much. I said, I got it. So I dove in, and I'm not an expert on autism. I tell people that, but I'm an expert when it comes to my son. And that was one of the reasons why I started the podcast, because getting that diagnosis without a lot of resources, without a lot of information about it, it is scary. Okay. But again, you have to see yourself past where you are and see yourself where you want to be, and then you start working toward that. And I think that's the same thing with you, Chris. And like again, and people will say I'm having a moment here, just patting you on your back, but I just want people to understand for me, how proud I am of you and of what you do every day and this responsibility that you take. And I've never heard you blame anybody for anything. Because one thing I do know, people will blame them. Well, I wouldn't, if so-and-so hadn't gave it to me, I never would have done it. If so-and-so hadn't did it, I've never heard you blame anyone for your addiction, but, and you've always taken responsibility for it. And me, myself, I'm a little bit jealous of your discipline, how you are with your finances, because if I could be that disciplined, I said I would be able to go there. I'm disciplined to a degree, but that's another thing that, I mean, you'll sit down there, I mean, you'll get it down to the penny, and you will stick with it.
Yeah.
And you'll stick with it, and that's just strength. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of people will use the addiction as a crutch, but that's not what you do. And again, I think that's incredible. I just really do, and I admire that.
You know, I think when it comes down to shame and guilt about what you did or what you're doing right now, the antidote to that is honesty and open-mindedness. You're honest about where you are, and if the people in your life, whether it be your family, your friends, your spouse, the people that support you, genuinely support you, there will be no rejection, like when it comes down to the honesty. And I think the fear of, you know, well, if I get honest with this person, they're going to leave. Or if I get honest with what I'm doing, people are going to reject me. And, you know, sometimes I'm not as honest as I should be, and I get that. But for the most part, when stuff is just really weighing on me, the antidote to it is honesty. And to get out of that pride and ego of saying, like, I can do it on my own, I don't need anybody's help, that just... It takes strength, it takes character, it takes resolve, and, you know, in my mind, like if you get honest with who you are, like, you're going to be valued in different senses and different periods of your life. You know, it's one of those things that really sparks my curiosity as a person, is like, how do we develop personally? Like, what personal development am I gonna try to get into today? And, you know, when it comes down to like drug addiction or alcoholism, or, I mean, it could be anything. It could be scratch off lottery tickets.
Right.
You know, all those things are to me, it comes down from this real sense of like, I don't see myself as valuable. And I want to change the way I feel.
And that's another thing too about self-worth. That I think that's very important as well. Because if you don't know your self-worth, you know, you open yourself up for a lot of stuff that you really don't want. And people will devalue you quicker than you will. So if you're devaluing yourself, they do this. They do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Now when, like I was shared earlier, I dated someone that had a drug problem for almost 5 years. How does that affect you relationship wise when it comes to, say, a girlfriend? How would, you know, does that make you hesitant to date? Does it make you like, you know, I just really don't want to have to deal with nobody in this regard?
Well, you know, the funny thing about like dating in or out of recovery, or dating somebody who you know has an addiction of some sort.
What's going on, Mark? See you, Pete.
You love these people, you want the best for them, but they've got to want it themselves. And when it comes down to like self-worth and stuff like that, I had to get to a point in my addiction where it was just like, the judge ain't gonna force you to do this. Your mom ain't gonna force you to do this.
Yeah.
Your friends and family, you love them and you care for them, but they're not gonna be the igniting factor that gets you clean. You gotta want it for you. And it comes down to that. You know, a lot of people lose their kids, a lot of people go to jail, and you know, at the end of the day, like, you can't just do it for your kids. You can't just do it to appease the courts or your spouse. You got to do it for you. And in terms of like loving someone who has an addiction,
Yeah.
You want to see the best for them, but at the same time, like you gotta look out for number one too, and it's really hard to have that balance of I love this person and I want the best for them, but I love myself as well and I want the best for me.
And that was where I was, and my thing was I knew that, and I felt like in the heart of hearts that she wanted to be what I wanted her to be. She wanted to be that. She wanted to be in a relationship. She wanted everything that went with the relationship, all the positive stuff. But then there was the drug addiction, and you want so much for that person to be well. You want so much for that person to be okay. But then at some point, what you yourself, and you're not addicted to the drugs, so you really, all the thing you can really have for them is sympathy, because you don't know what it is that they're going through, and it becomes so frustrating to you. But at some point, a person will say, "Well, I think my self-respect is starting to get into balance because I keep going through this," and that's the one thing. Without my self-respect, I couldn't help her anyway. Then I just become her. Basically, I was, and it's all like when you tell people that, we like to say, when Xavier got autism, everybody in the house had autism because everybody joined in with what was going on, dealing on. And it's almost like that when you're dealing with a person that has a drug problem or has an alcohol problem. It's almost like you got that problem too, because you want so bad for them to be okay.
Okay.
And then at some point you'll realize, again, this is where your self-respect will come in. You'll be like, without my self-respect, I can't really do anything for her anyway, because that's where I live. That's where I survive. That's how I keep doing what I do, because, I got a sense of pride about my self-respect. You see, and then you wind up, you feel bad. I mean, and you have to come to a reality, and it's not a nice reality that you come to. It's just that you are asking this person to be something that they can't.
So then you could say the relationship ends not necessarily because of the drug addiction, but maybe because of the personalities and who you were. Okay.
Absolutely. And again, it people don't want to see it as a disease, because in our community, Reggie, we'll say, old crackhead. And when you start calling them crackhead, you don't want them coming around. One day the hygiene is not what it's supposed to be, or you think they're going to steal something from you. Okay,
we start seeing it as a choice.
Yeah.
And then we can't relate when they say, "Well, that's a disease." You say, what? Kind of like mental illness and all that would be.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a disease. Well, no, that's my crazy uncle.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? See it. Yeah.
Oh, that's that old crackhead. He just want trying to get Scotty to beam him up. That's all he thinks about.
Okay.
He ain't fooling me.
So until we started to understand that.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of times in the court system now, they don't send you directly to jail or whatever. Now they send you to drug court, or, like you said, the nudge from the judge.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to do all this because we see what this is.
Well, here's the thing. They're not violent people. I mean, they didn't kill anybody. They didn't break in a store or anything. The crime that they committed was probably petty. You stole some diapers and sold them or something. You see what I'm saying? Right. It's not like they went in, and I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm just saying it's not like they went in with a 45 and said, "Empty your cash register. I gotta give you some crack." Okay. And they didn't do that. But you see what I'm saying?
Okay, right.
But I think again that's something, and you call it the nudge from the judge, and a judge could probably look at a record and see, there's a bunch of petty stuff. He just really, because one thing I've always said, if you could just take it, and that was the one thing that kept me in the relationship for as long as it did. If you could take the drug away from her, that would be one of the best people you ever met. Because when she wasn't on the drugs, everything was great. And I'm talking about before she fully got into it, the first say 6-7 months when she was clean,
right?
Everything was great. I mean, house was clean, food was cooked. Everything was everything, but then you started to see slips. You see what I'm saying? And then again, you deal with stuff that you really shouldn't have to deal with. And then someone told me one time, they was like, "Sam, your name comes up in some of the strangest places." I would never think you.
Now,
did you know Did you know
they had a drug problem when you met them? Or?
Yeah, but
here
was the thing. They had been clean I want to say like 8 months.
When you met him.
When I met him, had been clean for 8 months.
But you knew they had a situation prior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she had been clean 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing, what was said was that I just need somebody to believe in me, and I know how important that is.
And then you said, "I'm the
yeah."
man,
And again, I was in a different place too. My mom had just passed.
Okay.
And I was trying to find myself, because I was just, and a lot of times when something tragic like that happens, it'll turn you into a drug. But I never used drugs and I never drank. So drugs. But
then y'all came together because of where you were.
Yeah,
and where she was.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, that would take my mind off of it. Because I'm doing a lot of grieving at the time. Okay. But for whatever reason, I mean, she has such a personality that and it would get away, and it would make you forget about it. Like, wow, and she had no idea that she provided that for me, which is why I was like.
And then sometimes when you're going through that, somebody may tell you, well, she's got a drug.
Oh, absolutely.
But then with what you're going through, you may say, well, she understands me. Because of the struggle. Yeah, that's exactly because of the grieving process you're dealing with. Okay.
And see, I was one of them guys, I still am, one of them guys that I always keep my own counsel. I don't talk to anybody about what it is that's going on with me. And I never even told her that this is what was going on. Okay. She was just there. And that's why I say, when I was asked, that's why I asked you about when you in the relationship, she was transparent about it. She told me about all the hard stories, about all of that. But at that point of where I was in my life, with my head where it was,
we have a term for that when people are in treatment and they're dating. We call it trauma bonding. Right?
Trauma bonding.
Oh,
that's good.
Okay.
So that is good. Let me go with that. Trauma bonding. You know what? There you go. Okay. That was exactly what was going on.
So like the trauma bonding thing, it's like we have this same experience, and we're both trying to, whether it's drugs or not, like getting clean, you're just trying to find that outlet, that way to feel better again, right, in the moment. And you see a lot of people come in and out of treatment, and they're dating, they're not dating, they're not focusing on themselves, and the whole trauma bonding. It's like we have this shared experience, and we're both like hurting painfully inside. Yeah. And it's like the relief of the relationship allows me not to focus on myself.
Jamie checking in. Jamie Harris is checking in.
What's going on, Jamie? Carlos, I see you.
Yes, sir.
Good, man. Y'all call somebody, let them check them in. This is a great show. I really like what is going on. A lot of information.
Trauma bonding. Okay.
Trauma bonding.
So I'm going through something. You're going through something. We connect together, and it's trauma.
The trauma becomes the tidal binds.
Yeah, it does.
Wow, that's
it does. It's kind of one of those things that you never think about, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like you lost your mom. She was on some shit. Those things, like they bring us together, that shared trauma in our lives, and we forget that we need to work on ourselves to move forward. We forget, like, hey, I'm grieving, I need my time, or hey, I'm back on drugs again, I need to focus on myself again. Those things can to me, those are like part of the whole life on life's terms. Like we're not dealing with them properly, and like whether it's counseling or whether it's 12-step fellowship or friendships or the people that care about you. If you're not sharing openly about like where you're at and what's bothering you, I think, especially me, like I like to repress that down and like just shut down. I don't want to tell people, hey man, like your behavior is really bothering me, or it's causing me pain, or like, hey, and to recognize that maybe I'm doing that to somebody else. Like maybe I'm causing other people pain, and those things are all like great. They're trauma bonding to me. Like it brings out this side of us that's like carnal in nature, right? Like this old school hunter gatherer kind of like, we just want to be together, and you forget that we all have like these parts that we need to work on.
So the guy or the woman who comes out of the divorce or the bad relationship goes right back into another one.
Mm-hmm.
Without finding themselves.
But they haven't
found
had
themselves. I call it finding
the
yourself.
thing they just came out of. And Sam told me this one time, you don't, it keeps you from getting back to where you need to get to.
Exactly.
To correct that problem, right?
Yeah, and the trauma bonding, and in my case, it turned out to be toxic.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And
we got Aaron checking in with us.
Who's that?
Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Aaron. Aaron Bain.
Yeah. Grimer. You know, for the job.
Why do I call him Bain? I don't know. Hey, Aaron, appreciate you watching, man.
Yes, sir, brother.
But yeah, it's and we were opposite. It's night and day. Because again, I was a guy that never did any drugs. Don't get me wrong. I went out to clubs. I did all of it, but would drink, nope. Smoke, nope. None of that. I was just there for the girls.
Right.
that was, and so for me to be with somebody who was a drug, it was just, and that old cliche, opposites attract. I mean, it did. I mean, because she could understand why I never did drugs.
But like Chris said, you found someone who could say, well, look, I done been through all this. And you were just going through what, like you said, you were.
Yeah, my mom was everything.
Yeah.
I lost my mom because, like I said, it happened all of a sudden. You know, it didn't happen from a terminal illness. You know,
right.
I spoke to her that morning, went somewhere and come back, she dead. That type of thing.
Okay.
I think from
and she was 47 too. She was young,
yeah,
so she was not. And I think about my own mortality now. I'm 59. I'll be 59 in a couple of months. So and sometimes that comes into the psyche too.
I think realistically, like we're all looking for that sense of hope and faith of like, no matter what we're going through, like things will be better. And sometimes, like in that moment when we're all up in our emotions, we make bad choices. Like whether it's dating somebody or going out.
Yeah.
Like, in my life, the way that it's worked, like sometimes I just gotta sit in that discomfort, man. Sometimes like I've got to sit in that pain, and through sitting in that pain, like I find the answer. I find the answer of how I'm going to move forward, what I need to do, and maybe that's the answer for some people, and some people it's not. Some people it's outside elements, whether it's drugs or alcohol, and I think that's where a lot of the higher power and faith come in, because I know the way that things have worked for me is the second that I'm going through something, I can share it with somebody, I can get the answers, and I can move forward.
Okay.
And see, and in that regard, it helps that person. That's what I'm saying. They draw strength from that when that happens like that.
Casey, what's up, dude?
Yes, Casey.
That's your
checking
guy,
in,
Casey?
by Chris, and Tammy.
All right.
Tammy Rose.
Tammy Rose?
Yes, sir.
Tammy, how you doing? How's everything in Jacksonville?
Yes, sir.
But when you talk the addiction thing, getting back to what we were talking about, we're getting people to see it as a disease as opposed to a choice. I don't think that those are two different train of thoughts. You see what I'm saying? And most of the world look at it as, well, you just chose to do some drugs. They really don't. I don't know if they don't understand the circumstances of why you took the drug, or understand the circumstances of why you wind up finding yourself needing that drug. And I think that was huge when people started to realize that it is a disease. And they said, well, why aren't everybody on drugs? I said, well, it's like any disease. You say like heart disease. You can say, well, my granddad had heart problems, and I inherited, or my parents had heart disease. What you inherited from them was not the disease. What you inherited from them was the gene that causes the disease. And if you do what they did, then that gene's going to be activated. I think, and I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything, but a lot of my reason is logic, and so. That could happen to anybody. Whatever happens to this person doing drugs is going to happen to the next person that does that same drug. But if they don't never do that, you see what I'm saying? Okay. Then you don't activate it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Makes sense. I mean, but like you say, at a different time, it was, well, that was a choice.
And that was my,
Right.
and that, I still think that dominates the mindset because the lack of resources that are there for people. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
But then on the flip side of that, some people, again, they got that pride. They don't want to, I don't need no help. In denial, I'm not on no drugs. That type of thing. So.
The two differentiating thought patterns between this is a disease and this is a choice.
Yeah.
In my mind, saying it's a disease means it needs to be treated, right?
Okay.
It needs to be treated with something. Saying it's a choice, I made the choice this morning and I woke up, I chose not to use.
Okay.
Right now.
Gotcha.
Right? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen a week from now. But once somebody is halfway level-headed, and I would say this happens about 6 months, 8 months into being clean.
Yeah.
From then on out, it's a choice. If I put one drug in my body, guess what? I know where it's going to lead me. Today it may be one beer. Next week it may be a 12-pack. 6 months from now, it could be an 8-ball or something that I shouldn't be doing.
So it'll progress if you know.
The disease of addiction is completely progressive. So that choice to do it once will lead to the things that you were doing back then. And I think we say some different, like, really cool sayings, and one of them is like, where I left off.
Yeah.
Like with my disease, when I got clean, that bad boy's waiting on me the second that I hit it again. The second that I put another one in me, I'll be exactly where I left off. Which, in my mind, where I left off, rock bottom, no place to go, no house, no job, no girl, no money in the bank. Like, I was pawning a TV just to get money for cigarettes.
Wow.
Like, those things were like, all that stuff is waiting on me. That misery is still there if I want it. It's optional. It's going to be there. That same life is still there if I choose not to do the right thing.
And the thing of that is, you would think, and again, this is somebody who's never been addicted to drugs and things like that, and they're thinking, not my thinking, but in their thinking, they were like, well, that should be a deterrent for you. You shouldn't ever want to go back to what you were doing. And that's when they don't understand the difference between a choice and a disease. Because if you haven't treated that disease, it's just like a cold that turns into the flu, and the flu turns into pneumonia. You got to treat it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's got to be treated, and that's why I say the perspective of seeing it as a disease. With society, I think they're coming around slowly. But I don't think they're near where they need to be when it comes to when you look at people with alcohol and drug abuse and recovery and things of that nature. But like I said, the transparency, and then I've said this, there's strength in transparency. And that's why I say, Chris, when you shared your story, and then, like I said, without saying your name, sometimes when I talk, because like I said, I know people that are still addicted to drugs, and I still love them. I still, try to do what I can for them. And one of the reasons I can offer them hope is because I see your journey, and one of the reasons I can offer them hope is because I see a friend of mine and I can tell him that I don't think he would mind it, is I see Keith Lackey's journey. You see what I'm saying? I mean, Rich, I think you and I talked about this one time when Keith first come to work there, and to see him where he is now, you can't help but say, look at my God. You absolutely cannot help but say, look at my God, and he will tell you that believing in a higher power is one of the pillars that he built his recovery on. And those are point of references that I use when I talk to people. It can be done. It's possible. It's not impossible. And you tell people that. And see, which leads I'm gonna segue into the thing about the suicide rate, which was something that we were going to touch on too. But I wanted to talk about it because in about 5 minutes we're going to get ready to say goodbye to our anchor audience, but we'll still be going on Facebook Live. The suicide rate, because people start feeling unloved at this time of the year, because it's heightened because of the holidays, You know, and you'll see somebody share something on Facebook. You know, it'll be a post about suicide, and of course it'll have a suicide number at the bottom of it. Normally I scroll by those posts, but I share those posts because suicide, and Reggie, you can attest to this. You know, there was a time when they would say, "Yo, black people don't kill themselves." That was a flat out lie. Flat out now, because, and again, it was one of our earlier shows that we talked about, and it's the teenage boys who are killing themselves in the African American community now because of the pressures.
And also it's compounded by the COVID-19 situation. So now you're doubling that because they're telling you, well, don't go see your family. Don't go over here. Don't go do this.
You want to spend a lot of time by yourself.
Right. And as you said, like those that needed to go to their meetings or go to recovery meetings, they can't go now because they're not having them. They're having them virtual or whatever.
How did that affect you? How did that affect you?
And for a lot of people, they still needed that personal.
So I will say, like, in the fellowship that I'm in, you know, a lot of people, like, were excited about Zoom and, like, going to on these online meetings because it means you didn't have to leave the house, right? You really didn't have to put in that much.
You get lazy is what you do.
But at the end of it, like, especially now, like 8-9 months into it, 10 months, whatever it is, you know, people are like straining for that connection, that intimacy of being in a meeting with other people. And like, if you're sitting next to someone, no matter what they're sharing, you can feel them. You feel that presence of whether or not they're doing good, whether or not they're struggling. And you lose that intimacy when you're online. And a lot of people have shared that with me. You know, they lose that intimacy, that connection. But I mean, I think it's one of those things that, like, while online is a great resource and it's awesome, and it's like pushing us into the new age of technology, at the same time we lose that a little bit.
Yeah, Rick Springfield, I know I'm telling my age, and Rick Springfield had a song called "The Human Touch." We all need the human touch. That was the chorus of the song. But you're absolutely right, because sometimes, you know, you be wanting to talk to somebody, and even with Duo and Zoom and whatever, it's still not that. You know, you need to feel that person's essence. Is that a right word? Essence of that person.
Well, they're like AT&T used to say.
Spirit. Okay.
Like AT&T used to say years ago, it's the next best thing to being there.
Well, I don't know if this is the next best thing or it's just better than nothing.
Like better than nothing. Yeah, there you
I
go.
think it's more like better than nothing.
That's it.
Listen, we got, again, like I said, we get ready to say goodbye to our anchor audience. How much long we got for the anchor audience?
2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes for our anchor audience. But is it anybody else that you wanted to shout out to? Because like I said, we're going to lose anchor audience, so they only give us an hour. But we're going to continue on Facebook Live. Chris, was anybody you wanted to shout out to?
No. The one thing that I always try to say when I'm sharing anything with people is if you're struggling, man, if you're hurting deep inside, if whether it's addiction, whether it's your relationship, your position in life, if life hits you, you know, reach out. I think that's the hardest thing that people don't understand. Like, there are people who have been through what you've been through and can help you make it out of it. And, you know, we forget that pride and ego says we don't need it. We don't need other people. We don't need the help. And nobody in this world is going to know you're hurting unless you say something.
Absolutely. What's one of the drawbacks that I run into on myself sometimes? Well, like I said, I'm a guy that pretty much keeps his own counsel, and people will never know that some of the stuff that does bother me, because that's the way I've always been that way. But Reggie said something to me one day. You need to let people know what's going on, which is because I'm a deep prayer person, and like I said, I pray. I got a list of people that I pray for every day.
Shout out to Caitlin, Elizabeth.
Who is Caitlin Elizabeth?
Chris's friend.
That's my friend from Boston.
Caitlin, how's it going? Thanks for watching. Share, and subscribe. And another thing, hit that notification bell when y'all go to the YouTube channel.
Right.
So that way, when we post up some new videos, you'll know, you'll be in the know right away. We're trying to build up that YouTube channel as well. So again, you can see this on Anchor, which we will post later. But we're going to continue on Facebook Live. But again, Caitlin, thank you for listening. And is that Charlotte Stroud? Who is that? That Charlene Stroud, thank you for watching as well. Is that somebody you know?
I don't know.
Maybe somebody, Ray, you know her?
Yeah, I know.
You know, the thing about like reaching out is you never know the answer you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
And I think from just a human perspective, like naturally, a lot of us want to help each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's natural for us to want to help each other. If I'm struggling with something and I'm not sharing it with people, I'm not getting the answer. I'm not getting the direction, the guidance that I need to get out of it. And if I'm struggling.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that when you learn, when you go in this life journey, sometimes what you're going through is not just for you. It's for somebody else, so you can so they can relate to, so they'll have a point of reference for you as well. Like with the autism thing with Xavier, and I keep going back to that because I never asked why did my son have autism. You know, I just accepted the fact that he had it, but I also took the perspective that he's a trailblazer, because a lot of the questions that people would be asking me, I didn't have right then. I got them now, and it may not be the answer, but it's still an answer. So, and that's why, you know, even in the Barry County area, myself, I think when people think about autism, the first thing they think about is Xavier. He's actually become like the face of autism in Barry County. That's the first thing they think about is Xavier. That's why it's important that the work that we do with the Hope for Xavier Foundation, even during this pandemic, we haven't been able to do as much as we can, but we still do something. And I think, and I'm in that part, I'm very proud of that. To get back to your point, you know, when you're going through something, sometimes it's not just for you. God's using you and saying, you're going to be my model. Because like I said, I look at Xavier as a trailblazer, and some of the questions that somebody's going to get that diagnosis tomorrow, or they're going to get that diagnosis, well, your son is autistic, and they're going to look at it like, oh my God, because they've seen autistic children before, and now, and it wasn't personal for me, and they just looked at a kid doing something weird or a kid doing something, you know, unusual. But now that it's up close and personal, you got to deal with yourself, you know, because I got a story that I could tell about, but I won't do it here, but it's probably one I'm going to come on the upcoming podcast about when I went back and started thinking about the first time that I had to deal with autism or even was aware of autism. Of course, I didn't know it was autism then, but I do now. I was 10 years old, and I'll tell that story. So if you guys are listening, when you see the Xavier's Journey podcast, I'll share that story with you.
Shout out to Eric Hooker too, Chris Frank.
Chris's friend Eric,
Boston.
Yeah,
Boston, man, you know a lot of people
all over the place.
Boston.
Yeah, they're at work. Caitlin's at work too.
Caitlin, thank you. You're not getting in trouble, are you? What did she say? I can't stay long.
Yeah, keep killing it, guys.
Keep killing it, guys. Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Caitlin, so much. We really appreciate that.
You know, I think to your resolve, Sam, you know, there's like two perspectives in life, right? Whether you feel life is this opportunity, right? Or you feel life is a burden. And, you know, it's around me, some people say, like, you can sit there and worry and be like, why God? Why me? Why is this happening? Or whatever it may be in your life.
Yeah.
Or you can say, why not me?
That is, Chris, God Almighty, man, you just said, and that is something that I think sometimes. I mean, I never ask myself why. I look at myself, why not you? Because I don't think, you know, and it's not in the Bible. You know, God ain't gonna put no more on you than you can bear. Believe it or not, that's not in the Bible. That's something we say. But what I'm saying is, I look at it this way: if God is in it, I can get through it. If God is in it, I'll get out of it. If I keep God in it, I'll be okay. A lot of times, and it comes from trust, I don't know the outcome. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that I trust God for it to happen. Okay. You know, then the more I trust Him, the least I have to worry. Because that's really the only way you can say that you trust is not to worry. You cannot trust and worry. They don't exist in the same place. They don't. I'm sorry. They just,
and one thing you said the other week, with all of that and with faith, you're going to do your part.
Yes. You have to do your part. God's
do
not
my part. I can do something.
You can do something.
You know, a lot with the way that my relationship with my higher power works is, you know, I just simply, like, in some of my prayers, I just simply ask, like, meet me halfway, God.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do the work. The results are on you. Meet me halfway.
Beautiful.
See, and again, that's that transparency. And I think, you know, and And people like I can't understand when you start talking about blessings. If it's not a car, if it's not a house, if it's not an exorbitant amount of money, or if it's not something favorable, that's not they don't consider that a blessing, but you should. And I said all that to say this, Chris, you have truly been a blessing to me, and I'm telling you, somebody's going to see this podcast, or somebody's going to hear about this podcast, and they're going to be blessed by it. And like I said, Reggie and I, we're a couple of those guys, and we're all about helping somebody. We're all about listening to people, and and we're not a judgmental people, which is one of the reasons why I think he and I, got along so well. People think I've been knowing Reggie for all my life. I just met Reggie at work, really, literally. But it's almost like I've known him all my life. But again, it's because it's an organic.
You have a genuine relationship.
We have a genuine,
There's no masks to wear. It's this is who I am. You accept me for me, and I accept you for you.
Yeah, and one thing he told me when he first met, he said, man, when I first met you, I never thought we'd be friends like we are. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you where we were when he told me about Xavier. And that's the way things are. And like you said, it was organic. And here's where we are today. And like I said, we, you and I have met, we've talked, and even in passing. Hey man, this, that, and the other. Oh, okay, cool. Then he said, hey man, Chris wants to come on the podcast. Right on.
Yeah.
No problem. I said, no problem. And whenever you want to come back.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's how we work here. I mean, it's never a problem.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we tell people all the time. We'll come up with something, but if you got something you want us to tackle, you want us a subject for us to bring up, and like I said, if you want to come back, with something else, just absolutely, you're more than welcome on it. I haven't, and I'll go back and I'll look at this, but I can already tell this is one of the best shows that we've had.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as the interaction and as far as subject topic, and Chris, again, like I said, you've been a blessing to me. Because like I said, I share your experience with other people without using your name, of course, but I know somebody. I'm friends with somebody. And so it helps me in my compassion to care about somebody else because I know you and I know your journey. Like I said, I don't call them struggle. I call them journey. That helps me and it helps them too. They may never see you, but it's a result of me knowing you. And that's how this thing goes, man. We need each other. We really do.
I think one of the things that we say is like, the stuff that is left unsaid can really harm people. So whether it's like that simple "I love you" in the morning, or if it's the things that I say on here on the podcast or at work in passing or anything, you never know what I can say that might save your life.
That's absolutely, and people don't realize that. And when I was coaching basketball, we always the kids we always said the Lord's Prayer before and after every game, win or lose. And then somebody told me, and then somebody from another team was watching me, and they said, "Damn, that's nice. We don't see that much anymore." And I said, "Yeah, we do that win or lose." I said, because somebody brought it to my attention. That may be the only time that child prays.
Yeah.
And the hugs that you give them, back when I give them, that may be the only hug that child got. So in that regard, you start taking stuff not for granted.
Right.
And you tell people, and see, and I'm kind of an introvert. If you don't say nothing to me, I won't say nothing to you, and that won't bother me. Yeah. And so some people, when they do start talking, having read it, and one of the first things out of their mouth, you're nothing like I thought you were. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why that is. Do I have a mean look or something like that? Standoffish look, because I'm not like that at all. But I don't. It's just because I'm a little bit introverted, and I'll admit that. But what's one of the things that people will say? You're nothing like I thought you were, because they thought I was that kind of standoffish person. Don't leave me alone. But I'm not that way. And like I said, and I wind up talking to some people about some of the strangest things sometimes, and I will never disclose what I talk to them but for me, I think that's God. That's how God uses me.
And even with that works out good too, because that draws a man more. Oh, I thought it was like this. Well, then let me tell him about this.
Yeah.
Since he's not this way, let me tell him about that too. So sometimes that draws him. That's a good thing. Yes, sir.
And so like when I said all that to say this about our life experiences, you know, they can enrich people's lives. I mean, and what we may think is something that it was hard for us to go through. It was necessary for somebody who's watching. You know,
Yes, sir.
and like I said, and that's the whole thing behind the Hope for Xavier Foundation. That's the whole thing behind this podcast. But Reggie and I started thinking, because we found people coming up to us asking us advice about stuff. You know, just give me a perspective on this. Because it was crazy. One day I was changing somebody's battery, and again, I won't disclose the name, and they started talking to me about it. And then I was like, then I'm in my head, what are you talking to me about? Because I hardly ever spoke to this person. And this is what they told me. I heard somebody in the racks, and they said, you need to go talk to Sam. I was like, what? And he said, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to it.
Yeah.
You know, and they came, and again, I think that's how God uses me. And one of my prayers every morning is for me to encourage and uplift somebody.
There you go.
That's
brother.
one. And the other one is for me to be able to witness about God's greatness, about God's goodness, about the strength of God. If one of those two things happens for me every day, then I think God's going to be pleased with me. There has been times when both of them happened to me one day, and it was such a good feeling that. But again, Chris, I appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
Anytime you want to come back, absolutely, brother. We're gonna make that happen.
Appreciate it, Chris. Yes, sir.
We forgot to do our. Got to talk about it. We forgot to do the contest.
Contest giveaway. We'll do it again.
But we'll do that then, because we forgot to post the call-in line.
Line.
That's
Yeah,
my fault.
next time.
But
Yes,
anyway, next podcast, $25 gift card. Shout out to my cousin Teresa Lynn Baylor, who gave it to us to give away. T-shirt. I don't know if you guys can see this yet, but this is some of the merchandise that we're doing. And no, Chris,
nice.
You're not getting this one, but you will get one.
Yeah.
Okay, but you get one. But you will get one. They come in yellow and purple, which is the podcast colors, and it says "It's a Wrap," and of course it have your name and whatever number on the back of that. And 22 was my favorite number in high school. That's why. But anyway, next podcast, which we're gonna make it the what? 5th caller, 8th caller. Okay. Which caller? Unless you should
go 5. 5th.
Okay, the 5th caller you will receive, and mark this down, Reggie. We got a It's a Wrap with Reggie and Sam clock. You'll get that.
Absolutely.
You'll get the $25 gift card, and you'll get either that jersey or a T-shirt, depending on where we are with our budget. Or lack thereof.
Yes, sir.
Or lack
yes,
thereof.
sir.
But anyway, guys, I've enjoyed this. And Chris, any last words before you go?
First off, super grateful for Recovery for giving me this opportunity. I would have never been sitting in the seat without it. And then thank you to my higher power for leading me in the direction of y'all. Amen. And putting y'all in my life. And thank you both for having me here. Like, I'm extremely grateful.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't have enjoyed my Saturday afternoon
yes, sir.
Without y'all. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, guys.
And
appreciate it, brother.
We thank you so much for being here. And like I said, I introduced him as my friend and my coworker first, because I consider him my friend first and my coworker second. Even though I met him as a coworker, he turned into my friend. Like I said, it's one of the friendships that I really do value. It adds value to my life. And I try to do the same as him. Again, like the man sitting over to my right, probably your left if you're looking. Reggie, man, love you, man. Appreciate everything.
Love you too,
do.
brother. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate everybody. Yes, sir.
And we try to do. And don't forget, early voting, Senate runoff. Okay, go out and vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just saying vote.
Yes, sir.
Please participate in this democratic process.
Yes, sir.
And so, with that being said, like we say at the end of every show, what we say, Reggie? It's a wrap. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Finish.
Which one I want to
Finish the one that says finish.